right, Todd Gladis, 10X TV, live here in studio with Tarek El Moussa of the hit TV show on HGTV, Flip or Flop. Tarek, thank you so much for coming in.
Absolutely, thank you for having me.
I know you're a local guy here in Orange County, so want to thank you for coming on in, but wanted to start first with some tragedy in Las Vegas. I understand that you were at the concert, the Harvest Festival. Terrible news.
Yeah, you know, I was there in Las Vegas. I was there the whole weekend. Everybody was having fun, and about 45 minutes before the shooting happened, I actually left the concert, and it really makes you think how my life could have changed within that 45-minute period. And it's just such a sad thing, and so many people were affected, and so many families were hurt. It's just the saddest thing ever.
Such a tragedy. We certainly pray for everyone in Las Vegas. Well, switching gears just slightly, Tarek, so let's talk a little bit about real estate. Obviously, this has been your passion your whole life. Start us off a little bit, though, about how you got into real estate and why real estate.
Ooh, that's a long question. That's a long answer. Well, I'll try to make it as fast as possible. When I was 19 years old, I was dating a girl. Their family was in real estate, and they lived a good life, and they were investors. So I was selling kitchen knives at the time, and I lost my lead book, and I kind of went out of business. And one day I was at a Washington Mutual Bank, and I looked over and I saw a sign that said real estate school. So I just emptied my account, walked over and signed up. That's how it happened.
Started off with getting your license. So tell us a little bit about how the show was born. So this Flip or Flop premise of buying distressed real estate and then renovating those homes and reselling it. How did that whole concept come about?
Well, it was during our first flip. I was at a real estate convention in Las Vegas. I met a guy there. He said he had a small local TV show and he got business. So a few days later, I went online. I told my wife at the time, Christina, I said, hey, I'm going to get us a TV show. She's like, yeah, you're crazy. Here we are, by the way. And I just started sending emails to production companies and Pytown Productions. They responded. We did the home video. We did the 2-day shoot. We pitched to networks, and we got the series. And I'll never forget when we got the series, we had flipped 3 houses. We got the contract. They wanted us to do 13 houses in 10 months. So because I was under so much pressure to find so many houses, I learned so many different ways to find flips and properties, and that's why I was able to build the business that we have today.
Now, what I thought was interesting about what I read was when they first put you in on the time slot, I heard it was 11 p.m. because there was a little bit of concern about you guys purchasing distressed real estate. Talk a little bit about that.
It's just wild, actually. So halfway through season 1, HGTV almost canceled the show. We actually stopped filming because someone at the network didn't think it was good for the network. And we fought our way every step we had to fight, right? So they didn't do any marketing, they didn't do any commercials. They aired us from 11 p.m. to 12 a.m. and our ratings actually went up during that hour. 2 weeks later, we were prime time. And the rest is history.
The rest is certainly history. Well, let's talk a little bit about real estate when it comes to buying distressed property. So we have thousands of investors looking at our site, trying to figure out the best way to do this. So what would be your advice when you talk about acquisitions of property? What are the things that you're looking out for if you're an investor when it comes to acquiring that real estate investment?
The number one thing to look for when investing is what will this property sell for when it's done? Because the only way to know what you need to pay for a house is to figure out the actual value once it's renovated.
So it's all about your basis. What is that buy going to look like? And then also, like you were saying, what's it going to look like on the other end when you resell it? And then, of course, in the middle of that is your rehab efforts.
Right. So what I do is I take what am I going to resell this property for at the highest price possible, minus the rehab costs, carry costs, whatever costs, and then you get to a net number. From that net number, I'll offer 12 to 15% less.
So the other things in acquisition, so obviously what is that home going to sell for? So when you're evaluating an asset, what are the things you're looking at there?
Definitely looking at absorption rates, especially today. So I'll do inventory reports. So obviously if we're in a good market, we'll have 3 homes for sale, 7 pending, right? So the demand's higher than the supply. And vice versa, if I go in and there's 9 homes for sale in a neighborhood and there's 2 selling, then that's not a good sign.
Right. And then when you talk about rehab, so the things that you want to look out for when you're rehabbing a home, renovating a home, talk a little bit about, say, that contractor. You know, how does that process play into it?
I mean, I've flipped hundreds of homes, and even today there's always issues with contractors, right? So it's never going to go smooth, but every flip you do, you learn more and more and more. But at the beginning, working with contractors was really difficult.
So would you say, though, the budget, staying on budget for renovation has got to be critical? I know you guys on the show had sometimes issues with that because of unforeseen circumstances, right?
Absolutely. I mean, things come up. So on every rehab bid we get, typically goes up anywhere from like 10, sometimes 20%, because things do come up.
Right. And do you typically try to build some of that into your budget, of course, to say,
Yes.
well, I believe there could be a foundational issue, or we can't run power across open water?
Yeah, exactly. So going into every property, I look at best case scenario, worst case scenario, and there's a big enough gap to where things come up. The profit won't be as big, but there's still a profit.
Sure. And then, of course, on the resale side, so what are the things you're going to target most once that home is complete as far as reselling it? What are you looking for there?
Well, the first thing is you have to price it right. So you can't, just because you spent more money than you thought, you can't ask more money. So it has to be priced right. It has to look amazing, professional photos, and overall it just needs to get out there, and typically we get multiple offers.
How important is really putting the time into staging a home? Is that important?
It's a case by case. So sometimes in a neighborhood you can pool comparables where you can spend $3,000 on staging and actually get a higher appraised value. Where other neighborhoods, it's so nice without staging, you're going to be the highest comp anyways, and there's a chance it doesn't appraise, so you don't have to stage. If that makes sense.
Sure, no, it truly does. And so then, of course, when you run these open houses, what kind of feedback the feedback you receive from potential customers, how important is that to understand if you priced it right?
Well, feedback obviously is really, really good. The only open houses I do obviously is on the show. Sure. But again, as long as you have the marketing there, it's priced right, it's going to sell.
And as far as marketing those homes, do you see that the renovations have truly driven more traffic to these properties, say, given maybe what they've seen in other homes in that location or same street?
Yeah, what's interesting about flips and why buyers typically like them so much, they're able to go into that flip, it's a brand new house, put a minimum down payment, and they're done. As opposed to a regular buyer coming up with 10 or 20% down, buying a house that's a fixer and spending $100,000 to fix it up. A lot of people don't have that money.
Sure. And then with the renovation, are you ever concerned that the things you're going to put in there or how you're putting that together, that you're going to appeal to a wide audience, or are you looking certainly for any unique features that'll really drive pricing?
Right, well, it's really important to stay with the trends. So the look that we used to use maybe 6-7 years ago is completely different than today. Today's more of a light transitional look, where a few years ago was more of a rustic look with travertines and darker cabinets and things like that.
Right. And so do you get the feedback? I'm sure you get a lot of feedback on that as well from customers, clients, potential people looking at these homes saying, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Open floor concept still big?
Yeah, I mean, we're moving walls and we're creating islands and peninsulas, and houses are definitely different today than they were 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Sure. So biggest flip that you have ever accomplished, what would you say?
Well, I've had some wins and I've had some losses. The biggest one was in Newport Beach. It was a few hundred, so it was pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what would you say the biggest flop with respect maybe to the biggest unknown obstacle or something that really came out of nowhere?
I can answer that. So the Newport Beach flip was over 300. We just did a flip out in Texas because we do other states as well. Everything went wrong. We actually ended up losing $100,000. It's definitely my team's fault and my fault for letting that happen because we didn't do the homework we needed to do.
Sure. So clearly, doing your homework, you have to admit, if you're giving tips to first-time investors or investors that say buy properties every week, every month, top 3 tips to give our investors.
Okay, it's top 3 tips. 1, what is the house going to sell for? 2, make sure you get a good rehab budget. 3, buy at the right price. I keep it very simple.
I think simple is good. Well, Tarek, thank you so much for taking some time here with 10X TV. We appreciate it. I know you're local, so thanks for coming down.
Absolutely. Had a great time.
All right.